We hope you enjoyed our video. We're going to tell you a bit more about the social psychology behind the choices that we made for it. So we chose to take a bit more of an emotionally targeted approach. We targeted the collective guilt of advantaged potential allies because it's been shown that this increases supportive contact from these groups. In addition, we also targeted the anger and motivation from disadvantaged minority groups. We did this because anger is actually another key motivator for collective action as well. So through the exploitation of stereotypes, the use of collective action motivation, and explicit supportive contact from allies, we are confident that our video will be an effective tool to increase attendance at the annual Women's Memorial March.
We also chose to not be in the video itself because just out of respect for the seriousness of the video, and we thought that having the Indigenous women in there talking about the issue would have more of an impact.
We also didn't want to appear as though it was strategic cross-group helping, which is when the advantaged group participating in collective action don't have very admirable motivations for being there. So they're doing it to make their group look better or to maintain their advantaged status. And now we're going to talk a bit about stereotypes.
So we chose to include a number of Indigenous women in our video because they explain how the inaccurate and negative stereotypes affect their group. Stereotypes are beliefs and shared characteristics of members of a group. One of the women we mentioned in our video expresses that public perception of her and other Indigenous women is blatantly negative. She explains that strangers who don't even know her consider them to be drunken Indians and or blame them for the things that happen to them because of prostitution and drugs. By using this footage, we believe that it will bring about feelings of anger for individuals that identify with her group, which is a motivator of collective action.
In order to illustrate these examples more clearly, we need to first define discrimination and prejudice. Prejudice is an attitude toward members of a group, and discrimination is the differential treatment of members of a group just based on their group membership. Prejudice and discrimination are both demonstrated in the video when the Indigenous woman was reading a hate letter she received. The letter itself is an act of discrimination, and the beliefs of that individual indicate the prejudicial attitudes. By explaining the prejudice and discrimination she faces daily, she is encouraging members of her in-group to stand up and make a change.
We also attempted to fight the effects of depersonalization by showing individual photos of murdered Indigenous women. Depersonalization is like it focuses on group traits rather than individual traits. So by showing the individual photos, we're attempting to show the audience that these women are more than just Indigenous women. So they're actually mothers, daughters, and sisters, and they're individual human beings who have been a victim of injustice.
Social change, specifically resistance, almost always involves cross-group contact with out-group allies. It's important to remember that just because someone's not part of the disadvantaged minority, that definitely doesn't mean that they can't play a huge role in contributing to social change. And just for those of you who don't know, supportive contact is positive cross-group contact in which advantaged group members explicitly support the disadvantaged group in achieving their collective goals. We chose to demonstrate this in our video in a couple of ways. First, it was in the black and white clips of last year's annual Women's Memorial March. It showed a lot of diversity. There were males in the audience, different ethnicities. We felt that was an effective way to show it. And secondly, we also had a male voice state the closing line in the video, which emphasized standing together. And we felt that having someone who clearly wasn't part of the disadvantaged minority emphasizing how important it is to stand together would be a really effective way to show supportive cross-group contact. And we're going to discuss a little bit about a study by Droogendyk. It's titled The Role of Supportive Contact in Increasing Collective Action Engagement Among Disadvantaged Group Members.
So the results of this study demonstrate that supportive contact increased collective action engagement due to the supportive group-based emotions shared by the male friend and the supportive impact of these emotions in in-group identification. In our video, we presented many out-group members demonstrating supportive contact to have a positive impact on emotions on in-group identification. For example, in our video, out-group member supportive contact is demonstrated by a few clips of last year's Women's Memorial March.
So we showed an Indigenous woman named Missy, and we emphasized her saying, "Say yes," to the question, "What can you do to help?" Now, we chose to do this because she really was getting the point across of getting other people who weren't necessarily part of the minority and Indigenous women, and just showing how important it is, which is actually a form of conversionary collective action. This is when it's an action designed to recruit non-members to join the in-group. So she's really trying to highlight the injustice they face and make everyone feel like they can do something to make a difference.
Now we are going to talk about collective action in more detail. A strategy to increase collective action is to promote collective identity and to strengthen perceptions of injustice. We focused on in-group members for most of the video to avoid too much positive cross-group contact, as it can undermine factors that lead to strong collective action engagement among disadvantaged members.
We chose the clip of Missy talking about different responses of the public if white women were missing instead of Indigenous women, to empower Indigenous women to be more active in this issue. This depicted how Indigenous women like Missy believe that white women and Indigenous women are treated differently due to the group membership. Indigenous women cannot move between their barriers of other groups, which means the membership is fixed. Due to impermeable boundaries, it would lead to collective action because these women have a sense of attachment to the group and they will act as a group instead of individuals. Thus, the reason why we chose the clips will remind Indigenous women that they would need to act as a unit in order to create change for the group's condition.
So collective action occurs whenever a group member represents their group and acts to improve the conditions of the entire group. We chose to specifically include clips of an Indigenous woman named Missy as an example of collective action. She is representing Indigenous women and she's seeking to bring about social change in order to improve her group's conditions. Our goal was to bring awareness to the issue of missing and murdered women and to find and prevent this from happening in future.
So we chose Missy because we thought it would be effective to have a member of the social group, which is Indigenous women, advocating for change. We thought it would make a much greater impact than the opposite. It shows that Aboriginal women like Missy are so aware that their group is suffering from injustices, which kind of brings out that spirit in other Aboriginal women to feel the same way. So the fact that Missy and other Aboriginal women in the video perceive that their group is facing these injustices, it just makes them that much more motivated to resist. Therefore, the collective action that they're depicting is resistance, which is the process of challenging their in-group mistreatment.
We decided to use the concept of cognitive dissonance to motivate collective action through the use of the article by McKimmey in 2015. Most of the research about cognitive dissonance is within an intrapersonal context. However, recent research reveals that this concept has a social component to it. Groups or social identity plays a significant role in dissonance arousal and reduction. Cognitive dissonance occurs when a person is in a situation where their pre-existing beliefs conflict with their behaviors. This results in uneasiness, which they might try to reduce by changing their behaviors in order to be consistent with their beliefs. In the video, we emphasize this through a question. Do you believe these missing or murdered women deserve to be heard? But what have you done? As such, people might realize that this is a cause that they identify with and they support, so they would attend a march to reduce their feelings of dissonance to match with their beliefs. And now, Mobin will join me to wrap up our presentation.
In the process of making this video, we focused on concepts to make this video more effective in informing the public about this event and actually about this issue, and encourage them to participate in the march. The main concepts we used in our video are first, the inaccurate stereotypes that some people have against indigenous women. And then we illustrate effects of the engagement of this group specifically, and also the other groups as well on this action. And finally, how we can effectively support this event and raise awareness toward this issue. In order to highlight the issue and be able to motivate the public more effectively, our main idea was to use the emotional aspects of humans because it has a strong influence on public's engagement in collective actions.
We chose to end the video with a quote, "Fight for the women who can no longer fight for themselves. Every human life has value," to highlight the fact that all humans are equal no matter their gender, race, and ethnicity, and these Indigenous women deserve to be known and valued individually. Therefore, it is our responsibility to help them and support this action to put an end to this issue once and for all.
Although this event and this video may not solve all there is to this problem, but viewed social psychology in a way that we believe it will be effective to shed light on this issue and takes us a step closer to finish this injustice against this disadvantaged group and support them. Thank you for watching our video. I hope you consider it for your event.